Naciones Unidas para la Educación, Science and Culture.
Planet Earth has experienced periods of extreme cold throughout its history. During the last ice age, the continent we now call Europe was covered by a giant sheet of ice. For 100,000 years, freezing temperatures posed a challenge to all living organisms. Then, 12,000 years ago, global temperatures rose sharply and the ice sheets began to melt. The last ice age was over. The European continent's climate gradually became milder and life returned. As the retreating ice carved out rivers and valleys, various tree species that had survived the cold began to cover wide areas of land. Among them was the Fagus sylvatica, the European beech, which gradually spread across the entire continent. Where today there are cities, roads and fields, there once stood forests teeming with life. Vast green expanses where the beech tree, able to adapt to just about any environment, reigned supreme. Beech forests became the most common land habitat on the continent, a huge network of pristine ecosystems that nurtured the propagation of countless species. But then humans appeared and began to clear forests and grow crops on an ever-expanding scale. These forests were managed and harvested by people for centuries. Following the arrival of the industrial age, nature proved unable to keep pace with human populations' growing hunger for resources. As avalanches and landslides became more and more frequent, it became increasingly evident that forest preservation must be a priority. Starting in the 1970s, people began to appreciate forests' ecological role, as well as their value to humanity in preserving the land, protecting the climate, and combating global warming. And also as a recreation, biodiversity, and agricultural resource. Forest reserves were established across Europe. In Switzerland, there are two iconic natural forest reserves. The residents of the Bettlerstock region at the foot of the Jura Mountains and the canton of Solothurn were among the first to develop a pioneering protection concept. And in the Lodeno Valley in Ticino, one of the largest beech forests in Switzerland was designated as a forest reservation. People began to think of beech forests in valleys and alpine areas as a unique resource. By leaving the forest to its own devices, we are giving our entire ecosystem the space to recover and grow. As it did thousands of years ago without human intervention, a fallen beech tree lying on the forest floor provides a valuable habitat that can sustain fungi, insects, and vegetation in a symbiotic relationship for decades. The needs and uses of forests have changed over millions of years. Protecting these habitats from human intervention has allowed us to study their past and envision new possibilities for the future. To preserve these living ecological memories for future generations, UNESCO has designated several of the last ancient forests on the European continent as World Heritage Sites. They are an indispensable resource for understanding the history and evolution of ecological processes at the global level. In places like Lodeno and Bettlerstock, nature shows us how climate change is impacting our world. After the inescapable crisis that lies ahead, nature will be reborn as it was 10,000 years ago. All we can do for the sake of our future is to learn from her. Time has not stood still in places like these. It travels according to the slow rhythm of the natural cycle.